Welcome back to CEO Money. I'm Michael Yorba. We're talking with Rebecca Walser, PR consultant for tax attorney and CFP author. Rebecca, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Michael.
All right, my pleasure. Your company, Walser Wealth. Give us some background on you, and then let's get into the talking points for today.
Great. So my background is I was in finance. My undergrad in finance. I worked in business finance with PricewaterhouseCoopers for over a decade, with IBM as well. And then I went to law school and went to University of Florida, and then I went to NYU to get my basically advanced law degree in tax. Practiced tax law for a while, and then I basically opened my own wealth management advisory, tax advisory, kind of incorporating both the financial and the legal tax piece.
Okay, what do you see happening now? Because that's a big topic of all the changes that are coming to the tax code. What do you see happening as we go forward with?
You know, Michael, the biggest thing, I just wrote my first book, Wealth Unbroken. It came out this month and actually did very well. I hit number one on Amazon in personal retirement, personal finance. So I was really excited about that. What I have found in finance for over 15, 20 years and now the law is we have really kind of built wealth in a way that convention has told us is a great way to do it, but it made sense in the 80s when the 401k really came into prominence. If you look at the status of America fiscally in 2018, you know, building wealth and pre-tax vehicles is really becoming suspect.
Okay. And?
So what we got to do is challenge the way we've been thinking for the last 30 years and ask ourselves, does it make sense to pay the tax later? Will we really get lower tax rates later with our big debt, $21 trillion, and the retirement of our boomer generation?
And your answer to that is?
Well, as a tax lawyer, I'll tell you I'm not a big fan of pre-tax wealth.
Okay.
Not a big fan.
All right. So what are you advising your clients to do? Pay them now? Pay them later?
So with this new tax reform we just got, Michael, we do now have the lowest taxes we've had since Ronald Reagan's reforms, obviously.
Right.
And it's a great time to actually start looking at, should we convert money out of an IRA, out of a 401k into an after-tax vehicle like a Roth or some other asset classes that we utilize, yes.
Rebecca, this is Ed Baxter. I've been in practice for a number of years, and one of the arguments I had over the years was people were looking to convert their pre-tax, accounts, whether it's 401k, IRAs, or whatever, into Roth when the Roth IRAs first came out. And my question to the people who were doing that was, one, how do you know at the end that the Congress can change the law and actually tax the Roth itself, because that's something that potentially could happen? Two, do you really want to accelerate that tax bill as far as obviously I'm not a tax expert. Do you really want to accelerate that tax bill from the from the future to the present? And that was a big issue for a lot of people. So going forward, when you advise people with regard to using tax-efficient vehicles, what are some of the ones out there that you would suggest that they might consider in lieu of the current ones we have?
So definitely I think that if you get a match at your employer, you should take the match, contribute to the match. But beyond the match, a lot of employers are now offering Roth 401ks. So if you're not income phased out of using a Roth 401k, I would definitely utilize the Roth 401k. And if you are phased out, there are other vehicles. For example, one of the most heavily favored asset classes in the tax code is cash value life insurance. That is another way you can accumulate wealth that you can access income tax-free during your lifetime. And that would be a way that someone who is income phased out of the Roth could also participate in some tax-free growth over their lifetime.
That is outstanding information. We did a ton of tax value life insurance in lieu of some of the other traditional things when I was in practice, and people were amazed at some of the conveniences and some of the things, the provisions that were available to them. And what do you see as the main advantages of using cash value life insurance for a purpose like that?
Oh my gosh, there's so many to list, but really it's about, the fact is there's so many controls and parameters when you're contributing to a 401k. If you're not part of the catch-up provision, you're limited to $18,000 a year. You obviously have a lot of seasoning requirements with the Roth. You have a lot of requirements that you can't access your funds before 59 and a half with not only a tax but also a 10% penalty. And you just don't have any of that with the cash value life insurance policies. It's really has a lot more flexibility and a lot more freedom for people that are not looking at using the traditional conventional methods of building wealth.
All right. You've got a note in here, America's best kept financial secret, permanent life insurance. What's that all about?
Well, this is just exactly what we've been talking about, Michael. It's just the fact that, if you go back over time, I'm sure that you all probably have heard of this, but there are really well-known examples of major corporations that probably wouldn't be in existence today if it were not for life insurance. I'll give you 3 quick examples. J.C. Penney really went through a hard time with his stores and wasn't able to pay his employees except for the fact that he actually took some cash out of his whole life policy and maintained his employee payroll to keep his stores open. With the Great Depression, you got Hilton, Conrad Hilton, with all of his, beginning of his hotel chain and his mega empire, really went bad with the Great Depression and accessed funds from his cash value life insurance to keep that going. And then the best example, I think, is actually Roy Disney and Walt Disney. Walt Disney actually wanted to have this idea for a park that would kind of have characters from his movies. He went to his financier brother, Roy, and said, I have this idea. Roy told him it was crazy. He went to banks. He told him no. So he actually accessed the cash out of his life insurance policy and started Walt Disneyland.
Do you see private equity moving more in that line too? Or they're kind of flush with cash, but it seems like a pretty good reserve.
Yeah, I think private equity is looking for more of the hot, the new hot cryptocurrency or, new mobile thing that's going to come along that's going to revolutionize some other way we order coffee online or get our, groceries delivered through drones. I think they're really more on the tech side, biopharmaceutical side. I don't see them going. Cash value life insurance has been kind of a secret, but definitely well known and used by the wealthy for the last 200 years.
Well, we used it for the clients we had. We used it as a quote-unquote financing yourself type of a vehicle because when you think about it, it suits the small business person very well when it comes to insulating cash. Also, insulating themselves from lawsuits and different types of judgments that may be coming at them because it still is a life insurance policy and typically is not attachable. So
exactly, yes.
And the people that we
Very
advised, back in the Stone Age when I was still practicing, that was the main reason. If people had a stash of cash they wanted to put back, but they wanted to have access to it, but they also want to be in a position where, let's say, for example, a business opportunity came up they wanted to invest in, they could then lend the money essentially to themselves, make the investment, and that money would come back to the lender, which in this case is the life insurance policy, which is what? Tax-free.
Yes, absolutely. This is a really great concept, and people really start to, when they stop thinking conventionally and start thinking kind of outside the box, what happens is you end up building kind of your own reserve, your own bank of cash. And, I like to have a lot of people look at using their bank to maybe instead of leasing a car or financing a car, basically paying for the car up front, and then instead of making the car payments to the car dealership, they're making the payments back to their policy, so they're earning interest on their own money, paying themselves back. There are a lot of philosophies out there of how you never really have to pay finance charges again. Once you build up enough cash, you can use it for all kinds of things, and certainly investments included, absolutely.
Great. Rebecca, thank you for being a guest on the show.
Thank you both. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Rebecca Walser, Walser Wealth, walserwealth.com. You've been listening to CEO Money with Michael Yorba and Ed Baxter, segment brought to you by Tycon Partners.